Okay, Webster, you've talked about what's going on in the world. It's absolutely spot on for my own research. Always amazing to see you predict things so far out in the future. So let's look into the future. What do you see happening in the next year?
Or catchwords would be depression, continued economic depression, maybe getting worse in the second wave. That could easily come in 2010. If not then 2011. So depression and repression. The repression is Obama. I put out some interviews. By the way, people can see all this or hear it at tarpley.net. I finally got my website upgraded. So if you haven't seen it, the upgrades went up just a little bit before Christmas. So if people haven't looked at it, please do take a look, tarpley.net. The idea being the comparison of Obama to Woodrow Wilson, a pedant, an elitist, a professor. Woodrow Wilson ran for president in 1916. He was, of course, a Morgan puppet. He had been put into office by J.P. Morgan, who got rid of William Howard Taft to open the way for Woodrow Wilson. Right, this is where we get the Federal Reserve System and a whole lot of other bad things. And he ran on this. He kept us out of war. Right, don't get into World War I. So he wins the election in 1916 and then turns around. As soon as he's back in office, within a month, he wants to declare war on Germany, which he does do. And then he passes the Espionage Act and the Sedition Act and throws a couple of thousand people in jail. It's light years, orders of magnitude beyond Bush-Cheney. The worst civil liberties emergency in the U.S. since the Civil War, and that's Woodrow Wilson. So you have Obama, lots of parallels, right? A Wall Street puppet, Morgan puppet, pretty much, runs with this very, very vague anti-Iraq war profile, although there was also the pledge to escalate Afghanistan. Obama is now losing his base. The black community, the people over at the Black Agenda Report in particular, are up in arms, and they're gaining in influence because the black unemployment is sky high, and Obama refuses to do anything. The Greens, of course, are unhappy because Obama was checkmated in Copenhagen. The anti-war people, in particular, are becoming more and more active. We had a very good demonstration here on the 12th of December with Kucinich, Gravel, McKinney, and Ralph Nader, and
the left is now found out that the health care plan is a giant robbery, has nothing to do with their precious socialism.
Right. Let me just mention there's going to be a demonstration specifically against the CIA drones in Afghanistan and Pakistan at Langley, at the CIA headquarters, I think, the 16th of January. That's Cindy Sheehan and Cynthia McKinney and their group of the Peace of the Action, P-E-A-C-E, Peace of the Action. So that's something. So the anti-war people now making, I think, a comeback, and that's of course, most welcome. As you say, the fact that Obama has totally sold out to the private insurance companies and the private pharmaceutical cartel, that's evident to everybody. Gay rights people very, very upset because he hasn't done anything for them.
So what's going to happen? I mean, we know Obama, but he's just a little puppet front man.
Right. Okay. So
I'm not really too worried about what he's doing.
By the way, in terms of attacks on governments, right, along with the Pope getting tackled, Chirac getting indicted, Berlusconi getting smashed in the face, look at what happened to Obama. 2 people led into the White House, two separate incidents where people waltzed right in. It's a way for the rogue network to say to Obama, follow orders because we can get you anytime.
You think that's what the message is?
I think that was the message of those 2 adventurers who came into the state dinner with
Manmo. All right, but Webster, in the little bit of time we've got left, specifically, what do you see with the economy? What do you see with the military next year? Stay with us. All right, Webster's going to leave us in about 15 minutes. I will get to the calls that are holding. There's so many other issues I want to get into. I want to go over the decade of tyranny. No doubt, in modern history, the last decade has been an incredible time of corruption. And yes, I know technically the decade isn't over for another year, but the media started the millennium in 2000. They started the new century in 2000. That's like starting 10 at 9 or 21 at 20. But the point is, the last 10 years has been an incredible time of tyranny, but also a big time of awakening. As the global banking empire tries to suck the last juices out of the United States to fund its tyrannical program. All right, Webster, what do you see happening on the military front? I mean, you said war, through proxies, through destabilization campaigns, through funding rebel groups. What do you see domestically happening? Where do you see all this going as they try to tell us we've had a jobless recovery? What do you see happening?
Well, let me cite a couple of predictions coming from others that I think are probably worthy of being considered. Remember the old Able Danger group in the DIA? We had this Colonel Anthony Schaefer. If you remember this was Congressman Kurt Weldon, Republican of Pennsylvania, brought out this guy, Colonel Schaefer, and started to talk about Able Danger. And the idea was, of course, that they had identified Atta and company well before 9/11, but they had these Post-it notes saying, don't tell the FBI or don't tell anybody about this guy. My view has always been that Able Danger were not hunting for terrorists. They were supervising terrorists. In other words, they were patsy minders, patsy monitors, patsy chaperones. They were making sure that Atta and company kept within the bounds of what they were supposed to do, right? That they attacked, when and what was wanted. Anyway, Colonel Schaefer was on the Jerry Doyle radio talk show yesterday. This guy's sort of a moderate reactionary to neocon. And Colonel Schaefer basically said, well, we haven't connected the dots again, right? We don't connect the dots. The agencies don't talk to each other. It's all bureaucracy. The usual nonsense, right, to hide the obvious fact that these are protected patsies.
Punish us with more power and funds and get rid of your whole Bill of Rights, slit your wrist, feed the blood directly into our mouths, and maybe we'll save you from the deadly underwear bomber.
Right. So Colonel Schaefer says, I don't think we'll ever wake up until a 10-kiloton bomb goes off in an American city. So that's his view of the years ahead. I would also add, it doesn't have to necessarily be in the U.S. There are some signs that might suggest someplace else. Of course, Europe is always a big field of activity, and if the goal is to get more European troops and more European money for places like Afghanistan, play Europe against Afghanistan and Pakistan, then that's certainly a possibility. As you say, the absurdity of the bureaucratic position is basically the more we fail, the more power we demand. And I would suggest the following. Janet Napolitano, alias Totalitariano, alias Incompetano, she should be fired or she should quit. We don't know whether she's incompetent or whether she's complicit, and we don't want to wait to find out. We want to get her out. Hillary Clinton at the State Department failed to pull the visa for this guy. Should be fired or made to quit. Leon Panetta at the CIA should be fired or made to quit because...
But instead, we reward failure because they're really not failing. They pulled off a great false flag.
Let me finish my list. Dennis Blair, the intelligence czar, the head of the National Counterterrorism Center that couldn't get this patsy's name onto the no-fly list, fire him. James Jones, the head of the National Security Council, overall responsible for all this stuff.
No, we'll punish him with more power. Stay there.
Resigned. And I have one other.
Go ahead.
That's John Brennan, Obama's in-house White House security advisor. Brennan, fire him too.
No. We'll teach him. We'll give him more power because they really did a great job. I mean, we're not going to fire them for more drugs being on the street. That's their job.